Every time you sit down for a podcast interview and think about the audience, you're already losing. Today, I'm breaking down why speaking to everyone is actually costing you the conversion of your ideal clients. And I want to break this down even further. My name is Kirley Moore. I am the CEO and founder of the Podcast Pitching Society. I'm also the host of the Currency of Visibility podcast. I've personally generated almost $100,000 in revenue in under a year using only podcast guesting. And I did that in part because I understood eventually, takes time. I understood exactly who I was talking to. And every time I went on a podcast, I spoke to that person. And I want to talk to you about how to figure out who that is and how to speak directly to them. We're going to get a little bit into that, but we're going to go even deeper into that in an upcoming masterclass next Wednesday, March 4th. I'm running a masterclass called the Podcast Placements That Pay Masterclass, and you do not want to miss that. We're going to go not only deep into this idea, I'm going to show you how to actually create not your ideal client, whatever, but how do you create stories that speak directly to that particular client. Then you're going to have an opportunity to ask me questions directly and workshop your own story, etc., live on the call itself. You do not want to miss that, and you absolutely do not want to miss your chance to ask those questions, because if you are podcast guesting, if you're interested in podcast guesting at all, this is when I tell you one of the most important things that you need to master, it is absolutely beyond anything else. You can get on the right show. Big platform, has all your ideal clients or whatever in it. If you don't know what to say, if you don't have those trigger words ready, if you don't actually have the language that speaks directly to your audience, well, you're just going to be another guest. And so let's get into it. The first point that I want to kind of break down when we start talking about audiences is there is technically no audience. And if you think about it that way, I'm not talking about like the strategy they tell you when you go on stage and there's a lot of people and you're trying to speak to kind of think about them naked or whatever. That's not a hack. So I'm not trying to tell you to not think about the audience that's out there. I'm telling you to think about the audience as one person. So instead of thinking about it, if you've done your research, and you should have, and to know that the show has like 5,000 monthly downloads, meaning on average, 5,000 people are listening to this show every month. Yes, it's 5,000, but I want you to think about all of them people are now just one person, all kind of pushed into this one person. And this one person has very specific challenges. They're a very specific part of their journey as professional, as mom, as whatever your audience type is. You know exactly what their objections to your offer may be. You understand what their journey to getting ready to even be within your program, to see the kind of results that they want to see through your program and through your service. You understand them so well that when you get on that particular platform, you're not talking to 5,000 people anymore. You're speaking directly to that one person, and you and them are having a conversation. One of my favorite things to do while I'm on a podcast, and if you've listened to me on a podcast before, there's a strong probability that you've heard me actually talk directly to the audience. So it goes something like, the podcast host might ask you a question, and your response is saying, "Yeah, that's a really great question," and you're answering the question. He said, "And if you're listening to this right now, and you are, right? First of all, if you're listening to this right now, it's one of those things that stops you in your tracks." Meaning they could be washing dishes, they could be playing with their kids, whatever, and you're kind of just in the background. They're not 100% paying attention to you. But if you're listening to this right now, I promise you that is like a antenna. Okay, is she talking? Is he talking to me? And then you go into, and you are a, and you essentially fill in the blank of what your ideal person is. And you're an entrepreneur who's looking for whatever it is. Immediately, that person who matches that criteria, they're now keyed into whatever it is that you're about to say next. And you better make whatever you're about to say next really good. Meaning that it's something either super painful for them or something that's going to be super helpful to them, or some kind of tidbit that you want them to remember and tie it to you, right? Some transformation that you've had with a client that you know is going to tie super well to your person and what they might be going through, okay? You want to make sure that you are speaking to only one person. It is going to feel weird, trust me, at first, but it actually makes going on podcasts, no matter what the size is, a lot more fun, because it starts to feel like you're just talking to your friend. So yes, you're speaking to the podcast host. Obviously, you're trying to vibe with them as well. But honestly, it's kind of like there's 3 people in the room, just one person is not visible. So instead of it being like you and the podcast host and then just a bunch of people around, it's just you, the podcast host, and this one other person. This one other person that you're attempting to build rapport with, that you're attempting to get to like you while also trust you. And then hear, oh, wait a minute. You might have some solutions that I need here. Let me listen a little closer. What she's, oh, you wrote a book. Oh, let me go look up that book. Oh, it's in the show note. That book purchased. Right? Oh, you have a course? Let me go. And you keep going. That's how, because you're calling out that person almost by name during your interview, they're going to antenna up and listen in more closely with you. Just by that one little hack. Try that the next time you're going on a podcast, to like directly talk to the audience. Again, audience of one, and you'll see a difference. Trust me. Point number 2, trying to speak to everyone means you're speaking to no one. And that's essentially, we have the same idea. Excuse me. Let's make sure my laptop doesn't die. Essentially, we have the same idea here of your usual marketing advice. When you're starting a business and you're starting to kind of think through, okay, I have this thing that I think makes sense. I'm thinking I want to help these people, but I'm not sure, whatever the case is. You have to go and speak to those people to make sure that whatever it is that you're building actually makes sense, that they want it, that it solves problems, all those things. And typically what happens is you start to develop through that process a persona. And you might even name that persona. We have 3 different personas at PPS, and they're not necessarily a different person. They're the same person at different points of a buying journey. So someone who is not problem aware, someone who is problem aware but is still shopping around, trying to figure out exactly kind of where to go, and then someone who is actively looking for a solution, who is now wanting you to essentially tell them like why specifically you. I'm looking at other podcast guesting people or whatever, like why you, why PPS, right? For you, it could be the same thing where you're wanting to serve the same person at different points in their journey, or you're serving a corporate side and a B2C side. It don't matter, right? You have to learn how to speak to that one person. And I will say this, because this is another conversation that I've had recently with a client where we were talking about just different audiences and language to use there. It doesn't matter if it's B2B or B2C, you're still talking to a person. It's going to be a different situation. And I'll get into the B2C versus B2B right now. Okay. If you're talking to a B2B audience, or you're trying to get more B2B contracts, etc., using podcast guesting, you want to make sure that as you're talking to the audience, you're talking about the things that they care about. A B2C kind of language messaging would be personal transformation. And so you are talking to that person about some other person like them who had a transformation that they would like. For corporate, you're talking about business results and metrics that they care about. Team performance, the biggest one, right? That's probably the thing that you need to stick with. If that's not one of your metrics for a B2B offer, you're missing out, right? If you can tie whatever it is that you are doing to them having a more higher efficient team, a more collaborative team that actually works better together, training leaders so that they actually can bring out the best in their teams as well. Whatever it is, you are talking to a human being, a person that is a decision maker within an organization. So you're still talking, hey, I've worked with organizations, this is something you could say. I've worked with organizations who have had leaders that are not able to galvanize their teams because their team is watching their leader with really unhealthy behaviors. And so we've come in and helped and worked one-to-one with leadership, and you walk that through. You might even, and this was where you would really get it, give a specific example of a leader that you've helped. But you're still talking about a corporate situation, right? And then what you would do is close that up with the result that came from the work that you did with that particular leader. Not for the leader, but the result that came for the organization. They saw a more collaborative and more efficient team after a few months of trying this new process. They were able to secure, $150,000 in additional revenue because they were working better together. They found an error that was in some place, whatever it is, because of whatever you did with that one person that then impacted the entire corporation, the entire team. That is a different approach, but it's still the same thing. You're still talking to one person, whether it's an HR person or a marketing salesperson. You need to know what their main, not only pain point is, but what is the transformation that they would be looking for. An HR person is going to be looking for a different transformation versus someone who is the head of marketing and sales or whatever in the organization. So you need to know that and be well aware of that. Point number 3, let's move on. Hopefully that was helpful to somebody, especially if you're in B2B. If it was, give us a like, share it with somebody else, comment, do all the things, so I know that this is cutting through. And then lastly, the listener who feels seen is a listener who reaches out. If people don't feel connected to you, whether it's from your personality or the game, the gems, all the things that you're dropping, they're gonna go the other way. And if you're talking in generalities, I gotta tell you this, people who speak in generalities come off as if they don't actually know what they're talking about. Because guess what? Everybody and their mama can Google. Everybody and their mama can use AI, right? And get a little script going. If you can go into specifics and then, multiple specific stories and show exactly what you have done for your clients and prove through stories over and over and over as you're going through the interview to show, oh no, I've done this. I do this. And the results speak for themselves. And you just continue, and it just feels like, wow, this person is amazing. I need to have them come and speak. I need to have them come in and do this for our organization. I need to have them come, and help me with my business, with my life, whatever it is that you have. Be as specific as possible. Create those story banks. We actually have a proprietary story bank framework that we use within our agency, and we give that to our clients so that they can create those story banks of different case studies, different stories, so that once they go on the podcast, they're not pulling from 10, 15 years ago trying to figure out what to say. They've already gotten and have studied their stories to know which one will go where. And so they're impressing the host because it feels like, bam, it doesn't matter what I ask her, what I ask him, they're just coming with all this really, really good stuff. And that's what you want. You want to make sure that you're coming in with specifics and you're speaking directly to that one person because you understand what their pain points are. So every story that you use is going to illuminate another aspect of those pain points and then talk about the transformation that is possible and close it off with like, yeah, that's why I do what I do. This is my program and blah, 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 blah. So by the end of your interview, it should be very clear not only who you are, I'm not talking about your credentials, whatever, but who you are, personality-wise. Like, what's your kind of thing? What's your shtick? What's whatever? Maybe it's like something funny about you that they've learned that humanizes you a little bit. They learned about your program, whatever it is that you offer. And they also now have an opportunity outside of follow me on LinkedIn. For the love of God, have something else. They'll have a way to extend that relationship now, hopefully giving you their email and phone number so you can start to build that relationship with them and eventually get them as a client. That is how you do that. And that is why you need to not think about it as an audience, but as one person that you're speaking to. All right. So, homework. I want you to describe your ideal client in one sentence. Not their job title. I'm not talking about, again, the persona piece of it. Just describe your ideal client in one sentence. Who are they right now, today? What transformation would they be looking for? And how does your program, service, whatever, help them to do that? Now, tomorrow we're going to go into something I think that most experts completely overlook. And it's one of the fastest ways to get more bookings, better referrals, and a longer lasting relationship in the podcast space. So I don't want you to miss that. But as always, I'm going to plug my masterclass. If you have not registered, trust me when I say this, whatever we go over here is just like the icing. I'm giving like free, cute little game here. We're going all the way in because there are no replays for this masterclass. You want to be there live. And I'm super excited to be in the room with whoever does show up. I feel like God is already setting that space for us. And I hope that you'll be in the room. The link again to register is in the description for this live. And I will see you then.